The season has turned. Winter is coming. Long ago, Britain's greatest playwright and poet William Shakespeare wrote A Winter's Tale, which begins as an intense psychological romantic drama, progresses as a comedy, and ends happily. It's the British way, of course. The United Kingdom's love-hate relationship with Europe is approaching the second act, the drama of triggering Article 50, that letter which will spurn the lover.
Here in the European Parliament, what is the mood about Brexit? What direction do things seem to be going?
It used to be depression. Now we have more or less improved that feeling, so we are doing a bit better. Now when Theresa May has also pointed out that Article 50 will be triggered in the near future, which means that we will then leave this limbo situation and move into the next phase, which actually will lead to an organized exit.
Well, I think in the first instance the mood in the Parliament has changed, and the mood in the Parliament after the vote was that let's not punish Britain, let's try and see if we can get a soft landing. But I think Theresa May in her conference address really did get the backs of the MEPs and a number of the other institutions, because she talked about the United Kingdom. There's nothing united about it.
Months after the shock of the referendum, the United Kingdom is breaking apart from the inside out. Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's First Minister, said she still thinks the British government lacks a coherent plan for Brexit. Northern Ireland's Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness, said he thinks the same. Northern Ireland and Scotland both voted to remain in the EU. Now the devolved administrations have been sidelined by Theresa May in an act of constitutional vandalism.
Listening to Theresa May in her conference address, and she behaved, in my opinion, like a dictator. It's a hard Brexit, which means a hard border, and for the people of the north of Ireland, and indeed for the entire island, it means hardship.
People are talking about hard borders and soft borders, hard Brexit, soft Brexit. The truth is nobody knows what's going to happen. The UK government and the Secretary of State says that they're talking with the Taoiseach. The Taoiseach says he's talking with them. And the truth is, while they're talking to each other, none of them have talked to Europe yet. And it's only when they begin to talk to Europe will we begin to have any realisation as to what the future may or may not be.
In A Winter's Tale, Shakespeare remarks, "What a fool honesty is." It's a valid commentary on the Brexit referendum. Lies carried the day. The negative honesty of the Remain campaign was derided as Project Fear. And yet, even before Britain leaves the EU, the British pound has collapsed to a 35-year low. Multinationals are preparing to exit the UK, and global banks are making plans to relocate away from London. It will be fine, say the Brexiteers. They have a plan, they say, but they don't have a plan. They never did. They had a slogan and false promises plastered on the side of a big red bus. They had racist posters modelled on Nazi propaganda, but no plan.
Let's be very honest about this. There was no plan B anywhere, either in Brussels or in London or in Belfast or anywhere else. Nobody actually thought this was ever going to happen. The in camp never thought they were going to lose, and the Brexiteers never thought they were going to win. And the harsh reality will be those of us who are left are going to have to try and clean it up.
The ball is now in the British court. It's up to the UK government to decide if Article 50 is triggered and when Article 50 is triggered. After the speech of the Prime Minister at the Conservative Conference, we have more clarity, but we can expect this decision to be taken in March 2017. And until then, you won't hear much from representatives from the European Union or from the other 27 member states, because we want to wait and see what actually the British are up to. There will be no negotiations without notification of Article 50.
2 years for negotiation of Article 50 at a minimum, and 7 years or so to complete trade deals on average. Is this workable for Britain?
Yeah, that's a tough question actually. The average time is beyond 2 years, and particularly for Britain, they will have to renegotiate with just about every country in the world in this respect. That's going to be an enormous administrative burden for Britain. I'm hoping for 2 years with the European Union at least, but it could realistically probably take more.
Open hostility in Brussels has greeted Theresa May and Boris Johnson. There is still no deal to be had. Article 50 hasn't been triggered, so there are no negotiations. But there is a deep anger about how Britain conducted itself before and since the referendum. The stated intention of Europe's leaders is to make Britain feel the pain, to protect the European project and to deter others from following a similar route. Donald Tusk, President of the European Council, said, "In my opinion, the only real alternative to a hard Brexit is no Brexit."
Whilst I respect the fact that the people of England voted to leave, they also need to respect the fact that the people of the North voted to remain, and we have a very distinct set of relationship. So whether that comes about as a second referendum or not remains to be seen, but that cannot undermine or take away from the fact that we voted to remain. Remain means remain, and that we are very precious about the political process that we have at the moment, the peace process, and we're asking the EU not to do anything at all that would undermine or damage the political and peace process of Ireland, particularly the north of Ireland.
Britain will definitely leave. There is no way to escape from that commitment by the political leaders in the UK. But I would say don't count them out forever. There is nothing that prohibits that the UK will again apply for membership in the European Union after some years.
A second referendum on the EU membership is not possible in the near future. Though the Brexit referendum was not legally binding, its outcome is widely accepted as politically binding. However, the UK's Parliament has begun asserting its authority, demanding scrutiny on the entire Brexit process and a series of votes along the way, culminating in a parliamentary vote or a referendum on the final Brexit deal.
Well, it's up to the UK to define how they want to have their future relationship with the other 27 EU member states. There are different models which they can choose from, the Norwegian model, the Swiss model, the Turkish model, or a free trade agreement like we have one with Albania or Macedonia. But it's up to the British, first of all, to make a proposal, and then we can see if that's possible or not. I understand that the British want full access to the single market, but on the other hand, if you want full access to the single market, you have to follow our European rules. This includes the 4 fundamental freedoms and also the free movement of people. And the appetite for accepting more British cherry picking here in Brussels isn't very big.
There seem to be 2 camps emerging from the UK discussions. Those that believe that Britain should retract from some globalization forces. That implies a sort of a smaller Britain, a Britain that looks more inside. That's on the one side, but there is also a distinct opposite side to this among the Brexiteers who are wanting a sort of a more global Britain, but they're wanting to do this in their own terms, so outside the EU. Now, depending on which of the 2 camps prevails, so the red lines will be defined differently. I mean, as far as the European Union is concerned, we are interested in good trade deals and in access to markets.
Britain has crossed the Rubicon, but Theresa May cannot be certain that she can lead her troops on to Rome, and in Rome, does political demise await? For Brexit's greatest threat is not the severe positioning of Brussels, but the personal ambitions of her own cabinet members. Brexiteers such as Boris Johnson, David Davis and Liam Fox appear as political jihadis in this psychodrama, radicals in pursuit of an impossible dream, wrapped in terrible narcissism and dipped in lies. And then there is Theresa May's own failure to articulate a clear, credible position for post-Brexit.
From the UK's point of view, we're not looking to replicate a model that somebody else has, that another country has, in relation to their trade with the European Union. What we want is to develop what is a new relationship for the UK with the EU, to be there when we're outside the EU. What we want is to ensure that we have the right deal for the United Kingdom. Obviously, we've got negotiations ahead of ourselves. Those negotiations will take time. As I say, there will be some difficult moments. It will need some give and take. But I'm optimistic that we can achieve the deal that is right for the UK, because I actually think the deal that's right for the UK will also be right for the European Union. Thank you.
Look, there's a long way to go on this, and don't get me wrong, I am very concerned about the future. I think everybody is, and while you have currency fluctuations, while that is good for you maybe at this moment of time, that can rebound on you somewhere down the road and just come back to bite you.
In A Winter's Tale, Shakespeare remarks that a protagonist will exit pursued by a bear. That bear That uncertainty is stalking Britain, and as the UK's economy falters, it is already doing so, fear will rise. To win convincingly the argument to stay in the EU, it is likely there must also be the prospect of a new kind of EU membership, a form of two-speed Europe. That would be a new season for Europe and the end of winter for the United Kingdom.